One, two.
My elbow. My elbow go pop.
Go pop?
It go pop. My elbow.
Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me, as always, is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
Would you believe it? 8/6 as much as the last time you asked me.
Swings and roundabouts. It had to catch up with you sometime. Yeah, we're back to recording at the usual leisurely. Giveaway, because I do make a conscious effort during the podcast to say today, but it is actually this evening. So that's when we record, this evening.
Yeah.
Every week, apart from last week, which wasn't this evening, it was that evening.
Yeah. We start watching the films like roughly 24 hours before the episodes go out. Yeah.
So do the math.
Yeah, the public meeting certainly happened. And I had thoughts about it, which you can probably read on Twitter if I haven't deleted them, which I don't think I have.
Oh, I'm going to have a look at that. I'm going to have to look at your thoughts.
They were very brief and rambling thoughts.
Oh, were they thoughts that you actually typed in during the meeting?
No.
Right, okay.
No, I did not live blog.
Blog.
And the two projects that I've already vaguely talked about here have sort of stalled, which is unfortunate considering that one of them has a deadline for the end of the week. But I managed to get an extension. I asked for no more than an additional week, and I received 2.
I have been speaking with your mother, and we have both come to the conclusion that you will not eat until it's done.
I don't think that's true.
No, it is. It is. We have already changed the locks on the fridge and the pantry cupboard.
The locks that we famously have.
Yes. Hey, look, you were the first reason we had to put locks on cupboards. Thank you very much. Back in the old place, because you used to break into everything, saying, "Feed me." You're a shocker, and you haven't changed. You're just eating us out of house and home. So, no. Until you have finished, I will allow it to be the major project that you've had the extension for, but you will not be allowed to eat anything in this house until that is finished. I'm putting my foot down. Wendy is putting her foot down. Everybody is putting their feet down.
And in other projects that I definitely can't say much about, I started and finished something in like 2 hours, which was a welcome change. It's only technically finished. There might be more.
Right.
But I did the thing.
Well
and then it was done.
Doing the thing. Or was there a financial incentive to do the thing?
There may have been some financial incentive to do the thing.
See, this is why Wendy and I are putting our foot down. Either money or food is a good incentive.
No, you see...
I will hang a carrot above your desk.
You would think that financial incentive would do something for me, but it turns out that usually if a thing is difficult, no, there's not a lot of incentive that can actually get me moving, which is a problem in this capitalist society.
It is. Yeah. All right. So you've done things and not done things, and you're on a starvation diet now. Good. Anything else?
Do I want to talk about that?
I don't know. You've gone and got married. You went to Vegas. Got blind drunk and got married.
So the
and then came back.
The very first problem with that is getting to Vegas.
Right.
For starters, I do not have a passport, or indeed the money to get a passport.
Right. Okay. So that idea is sort of a bit on shaky grounds then. Okay.
Yeah.
But
I
still
would
possible.
I would say that it is in fact on no ground.
Okay.
A complete absence of ground.
You could have raced onto the tarmac and climbed into the wheel well. You know, seen enough films where that happened.
I mean, Hobart International is... You know, it's pretty small, but I don't think it's quite that.
And it's not going to get you to Vegas.
No.
From Hobart.
It'll get me.
You would actually have to get off at Melbourne or Sydney.
Or Auckland.
Or that's quite an interesting way of going to the US, but yeah, you could do that. But then climb out of the wheel well wherever you land, and then climb back into another wheel well of another aircraft to get to Vegas. Well, you'd actually probably have to go to LAX and then climb out of the wheel well there and then climb into a domestic carrier.
Or hitchhike.
Yeah. Okay. So you got to Vegas, you got blind drunk, and you got married.
Okay, so next problem. Getting blind drunk.
Right.
I have no interest in alcohol.
Okay, so it was a sane and conscious decision to get married in Vegas. Are we going to meet this person?
Final problem.
Yes.
There is no such person who I would currently consider for that.
Well, you met them in Vegas. What happens in Vegas? Oh, stays in Vegas. So they're still there trying to get a passport, and they're in the same position as you as not being so they're doing the whole climbing into wheel wells and weren't quite as confident. Okay, good.
No, been... Here's part of the problem with trying to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
I binged a new show on Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
So after the big hype of the Vegas wedding, we're actually reduced down to you watch something on Netflix, did you say?
Netflix.
What did you watch?
I watched The 8 Show, which is a show based on a series of very confronting webtoons in which some people who are not particularly well off are forced to entertain unseen rich people for money.
Ah,
it's one of those.
This is ringing a bell.
In this particular case, they are put into rooms on separate floors. The food and water is free,
yep.
but it comes from the top, and so you have to rely on the good graces of the upper floors in order to receive necessary sustenance.
Is this a South Korean show?
Yes, this is South Korean.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but if one were to judge South Korea based solely on their Netflix shows, I would be very concerned about living in South Korea.
Well, it's sort of a toss-up, because on the one hand you have some very dour and dystopic dramas, and on the other hand you have their variety programming, which is very upbeat.
I thought you were going to say, on the other hand, oh, sorry, that's been chopped off during one of the competitions. Right, all right then.
Yeah, The 8 Show is a difficult show that I enjoyed nonetheless, and is absolutely not for everyone.
Good.
Yeah.
I shall put it onto that huge long list of things that I may one day get round to, but probably won't.
I was anticipating it, and so I binged it all the night it came out.
Yes, I read something about it on one of those websites that said, this is coming, you'll want to watch it.
And I did, so I did.
Huh. Maybe you wrote the article.
No.
Whilst you were in Vegas.
No.
Okay.
A big old warning for human cruelty throughout, and the last couple of episodes get particularly flashy, like in an epileptic seizure kind of flashy.
Right.
which is a step up from the already fairly flashy intro that plays out at the front of every episode.
Good. Good.
Yeah, no, that's it from me. What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? The usual plasma donation. It's that time in the cycle of things. I wandered a bit with a camera yesterday. It's actually been good taking the camera when I go into town. I've got a lens that does a reasonably good job of making you look up, if that makes any sense. I don't tend to look up much at all, but I was making a conscious decision of looking up in Hobart. There's some interesting architecture, both very old and fairly new, and all points in between. So, yeah, it wasn't terribly inspiring, but, or actually, that's almost a pun, because I did take a picture of some spires. So, what else?
You sat in an overflow area for a bit,
I
which
did.
I'm led to believe was just like the foyer.
It was the foyer, and if you were lucky, you got a chair, and it got a bit ugly in there, but I'd left by that stage because I decided I wanted to ask a question, and I almost wasn't allowed to until I said, well, it's a public forum, and even though I'm in the overflow, I am in the public forum, and so I would like to ask my question. And the person was a bit flustered, and I felt a bit uncomfortable because I was like 2 feet taller than her, and her being a female, and me being a 6'2" in both directions kind of person. Yeah. I don't think anyone who meets me normally would consider me intimidating, but in that situation where tensions were high already, yeah, it was an awkward situation to be in, but I did want to ask my question. And so she went to talk to her people, and her people said, bring him in. So I got to ask my question, which was basically asked 2 people before me.
And I think I asked the shortest question of the night.
You did. Yeah.
I didn't have any supplementals that I shouldn't have asked, and so I didn't ask them.
I tried to.
Yeah.
But it was a free-for-all, wasn't it?
Yeah. I do very much feel for the facilitators that they brought in. It was a rough night.
Yeah. Not fun. I do still have strong feelings about whether I should have gone or not. Yes.
Yeah, I was going anyway.
Yeah, I found out on the night when you said, oh, I'm already registered to be in there. Because that was the argument I was given. Oh, you didn't register.
Well,
said,
that is a baffling argument, because while registering was recommended very strongly, they did say on the website that you didn't need to register.
No. She was quite flustered, and I blame more the people who organised it and gave lack of instructions to people who were suddenly crowd control. There are a lot of things that they should have foreseen that I don't think they did, and it was as usual in any service situation, it's the grunts on the ground that get treated the worst when they're not the people who made the decisions. Anyway, we rambled on.
Yeah.
We have a film to watch.
We do.
What are we watching today?
We are watching AI, Artificial Intelligence.
Please tell our dear listener, from the shiny sealed package that is a Blu-ray copy of AI, Artificial Intelligence, the plot synopsis, if you can read it, and get past all the self-congratulatory stuff.
I'm just sort of trying to work out if they're playing with the font size all up and down this one paragraph.
Yeah.
And I think they are, which is especially weird because there's plenty of space and they didn't need to do that.
Well, space is the final frontier.
When a prototype robot child named David is programmed to love, his human family isn't prepared. Now alone in a dangerous world, David befriends a streetwise robot and embarks on a spectacular quest to discover the secret of his own identity.
Thomas is going to unwrap the Blu-ray case. Oh, that's really pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so is opening the wrapping. It's times like these that I'm very glad we are not still under wraps.
Oh, Oh,
Well, that's something. I suppose I should say, while we're here, that I enjoyed this week's episode of Doctor Who quite a bit more
yes.
than the previous two.
Yes, it was very nice to
Yes.
enjoy a bit of
Which,
decent Stephen Moffat.
yes, would you believe when he doesn't have all that much work to do, he can write?
Go figure.
Yeah.
The case is unwrapped. He's going to
Yeah.
open the case. He's going to take the disc out. He's going to put it in the machine. We're going to watch this film, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. So we shall catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B.
Turn to side A. I. No.
How many sides do we have? 'Cause-
Let's watch this, you mongrel. So what did you think?
oh, that was good. I very much enjoyed that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to come down to Haley Joel Osment being a very good actor.
Absolutely incredible performance. Yeah. He absolutely solid.
Yeah.
And a good supporting cast as well.
Yep.
Jude Law, just brilliant in his part. But that kid can act, or could act. I don't know. I was having a quick look through his history, and he's still...
He's still getting roles.
Yep.
So,
But not as a kid.
no. Unless you want to count Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He certainly had the advantage of being physically young for his age. So he would have been probably about 11, 12 when he did that, which is still incredibly young.
Oh, yeah.
And performance-wise, it's absolutely solid. But he was playing a younger character and was completely convincing as that. I was a little concerned that you would have pacing issues, because it is, especially at the end, quite a drawn-out, very Kubrick-like, 2001-like.
Well, it was his baby before he often died.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, he had decided beforehand that he didn't want to direct it.
Oh, yeah.
But it certainly has his fingers all over it, and there is a great deal of debate, and I don't want to go into it particularly deeply, but certainly when it came out, there was a bit of a backlash to it, with people saying that, oh, Steven Spielbergified it and made it soppy and things like that. And Spielberg is definitely on the record as saying that it's interesting in that the scenes that he is accused of Spielbergifying are actually the Stanley Kubrick most fingers on. So you can certainly review that at your leisure, do a bit of Googling. Speaking of Googling, well, not really Googling, I went in a dig through my photos, and yet again at the Pop Culture Museum in Seattle. I'm showing Thomas a mechanical bear that was used in the film, and I got quite excited. It was one of the first things that I saw in the museum. And
Note to editor Colin to send me that picture so that I can put it up on the MISC server.
I shall do that. Interesting also that last week's movie starred Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And I'm watching away, and suddenly I hear this voice that is very, very familiar.
Yep.
And Robin Williams has a voice acting part in it that is pure Robin Williams again. Which almost took me out of the movie, in fact. I think it did it distracted me in that, hang on, that is got to be him, and had to take myself out of the movie to check IMDb. And he doesn't appear on the initial listing of IMDb. You've got to scroll through the in-depth cast listing, and he's way down the bottom. I certainly knew by the time I'd heard him that, yeah, it's definitely him.
Yeah.
But there are certainly people who impersonate his voice. I couldn't imagine that happening.
A great combination of cinematography and set design, especially in the early parts of the film in the house, when we're looking through lighting fixtures down at David, or through
the rippled
eerie
glass.
rippled glass. Yeah.
And certainly during those scenes, it was quite deliberate in making you slightly unnerved by his presence.
Yeah.
And this could go either way. Is this going to be a horror movie? And in a lot of ways it is, but it's also there's no denying it is Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Either. Last week's Bicentennial Man was somewhat more subtle.
Yep.
Somewhat. But still that I want to become a real boy type of situation. But yes, the set design and the lighting and the through glass and ripples and sunlight and all very much enhancing that mood and doing an incredibly good job of it. I noticed in the closing credits that the cinematographer was listed as photography by.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know whether I'd registered that occurring in other movies, but rather being listed as a cinematographer, it was photography by.
Typically, if you see photography by, it'll be principal photography by.
Yeah.
Not just photography on its own.
No. But in this circumstance, it was straight out photography by. And it was John Williams.
Yep.
Doing his E.T./Empire of the Sun mashup to create a very effective soundtrack, apart from the bits that sprung out at me in awkward moments that made me register those motifs from those other soundtracks, which coincidentally are both movies directed by Steven Spielberg as opposed to George Lucas. Well, I am glad that my recollection from it, I was fully prepared for a slow-paced movie, especially at the end. And I was doing a bit of clock watching and thinking, we're very, very close to the end, and yet there's still 20 minutes to go. And had obviously still not remembered well enough exactly how paced that last segment is. And I'm not saying that it was wrong. It was what it was.
I was certainly worried there for a moment that the pacing of that last segment might have ruined it for me, but it didn't. It was just right.
Yeah.
The VFX, it all holds up.
Yeah.
I think maybe apart from that one bit of the robot's face opening up right at the very beginning. And just a few edges on that, but no, it worked.
The scene in Rouge, where the camera pans around, I don't know. The movie was made in 2001. I don't know how composite-wise. There was certainly a lot of model makers listed in the credits, but the way the camera moved around that city and the actors at the same time, the composition was just superb.
Yeah. The typical view of future technology, which is all curves and circles.
Yeah, but in amongst all that, there was still a whole heap of present-day activity. I mean, doing the laundry and things like that, you sort of think, and actually physically driving still. There's a futuristic car, but you're still physically driving. It's an odd hodgepodge of future tech, present tech.
So I was particularly drawn to, like, a remote in the first scene in the hospital. There was just... we have glued two circles together and sort of rounded out the join. It's all good. She's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else to bring up.
Oh, I don't either.
No.
Except for, again, reiterating that I'm glad you liked it. I had reservations myself as to whether it would disappoint after so long, but no, it's held up and certainly very much appreciated that. So that was good. All right then. Well, we shall move on then.
The following segment has no title. Thank you.
We will start over on Facebook with Adam.
Hi, Adam. Long time no see.
Who says, hey, you guys should start a conversation about terrible movies that people love.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it is a movie called Prayer of the Roller Boys. Absolutely woeful, but I watched it so much on VHS that the tape literally disintegrated.
Yeah, I have not seen it.
No.
And was completely unfamiliar with it. Thomas has certainly provided some notes here, but I had also done a bit of a dig to familiarise myself with it. And, yeah, it's something that is a bit difficult to come by these days.
Mm-hmm. He continues, my actual favourite movie is This Is Where I Leave You, but it's a comedy drama, so might not be your thing.
He says that.
Uh-huh.
And yet I went on Just Watch and looked it up, and I've tagged it sometime in the past as being something that I wish to watch.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. So presumably when it first came out, I read the plot synopsis and thought, that looks interesting. So, Adam, I am intrigued and was intrigued enough to, in the past me, tagged it as I wish to watch this.
Well, there we go.
So I'll have to hang around for that to pop up somewhere and check it out.
He concludes, I'll comment again in another couple of years. Still loving the podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
We'll see you then.
Yes.
Over on Discord, Entuosferatu.
Hi, Entuosferatu.
Says, of Bicentennial Man, definitely read this as Bicycle Man, but this isn't the Triplets of Belleville.
Yeah.
Which I had to quickly look up just now.
Part 2 of Just Watch.
Uh-huh.
I went to look it up, and it's another thing that I even more firmly remember after I'd read the plot synopsis again and noticing that I'd tagged that as wish to watch. That is far more familiar to me. Mm-hmm. I believe that it was Oscar nominated for Best Animated Film. It was nominated Oscars-wise. I believe it's a French animated movie and very quirky.
A French, Belgium, Canada and United Kingdom co-production. Yes, nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song.
Right. So we shall add that to our list of, Thomas's database.
The list that I am definitely maintaining.
Yeah, because Entuosferatu goes on, actually that's a suggestion. It was very odd, but good.
M...
Hi, Em.
On Twitter, says, woohoo, unique arbitrary point.
Yeah, well done.
And finally, Jill...
And this has come through whilst the movie was on.
Yeah.
Whilst we were watching.
Has commented, on Bicentennial Man, I did it! With a gif of Stephen Bradbury's miracle win in the speed skating.
Getting over the finish line whilst everyone else is tumbling over each other. Yes. Well done, Jill. You're a crazy person.
And you're here now.
Yes. Welcome to the present.
Which will bring us up to the guess.
The guess.
Because there was only one guess. And it comes to us from M.
M. This is the chance of getting the only opportunity of an arbitrary point in today's episode.
M has said, Bcntleman. BCNTLMAN. Which is so close.
It is. Now, if you'd gone for Bcntleman...
BCNTNLMN.
Then you would have got the arbitrary point. So I shall tuck it back into my pocket for next week. But so close.
So very close. Off by one. Off by one.
We encourage you to put in your guesses for... and no one's going to guess this one.
No one is going to guess this one.
It's letter salad.
Yeah. There was a very easy one that could have been there. It's not that one.
Well, I probably thought of maybe heading in that direction, but there are no dots.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So my mind went off onto a tangent and said, right, I can't have dots, so I'm going to have to go for something completely different.
And you did.
And I did.
Yeah.
And that is not going to help you, I don't think. Oh, well. So, have a guess.
Yeah.
Submit it to wherever you know where to submit it. And
also comments and film suggestions.
Film suggestions. Certainly adding those to the list.
And inane rambling commentary, if you want.
Yeah.
No guarantees I'll read inane rambling commentary, but go for it.
Speaking of inanity, let's move on.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
And it's your turn.
Right, so last week I was thinking of the wrong film.
You were.
I was thinking of entirely the wrong film.
And it's interesting that I only now remember that all happening, which is crazy because when we put tonight's film forward to anybody else who wanted to watch it, they read the plot synopsis and they also thought that they'd seen it. I'm thinking, I don't recall showing them AI. I'm sure I haven't.
And then Thomas, I don't think you have. Because...
No.
Because the film that I was actually thinking of is a lot shorter and less recent. Yep.
And is quite likely the one that they were thinking of too, which they have seen.
And now...
Which is all to say. You're going to throw that at us, aren't you?
I am. I am. Well, I did warn you.
You did. I did suggest you were going to say Pinocchio.
No.
The 1940, which is still one of my favourite animated movies.
Well, you know, it'll probably still be thematic at the end of next week. Because next week we are watching the 1985 film D.A.R.Y.L. Darryl.
There's no dot at the end.
No, there is a dot at the end.
Right, you didn't say dot.
No, I didn't.
See, that confused me. Because it irks me sometimes when people dot, but don't dot the last letter.
I mean, it could be worse. You could be The Guardian, lowercasing acronyms.
You could. Or we could have watched A.I. or E.T. We're watching Darryl.
We are.
Please, Thomas, would you read to our dear listener the plot synopsis that you have dragged out from My Movies?
Yep.
The back of the virtual DVD case?
Wow, this whole description is self-congratulatory. I didn't think it was possible.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I will read until I run out of non-self-congratulatory text, which happens to be in the middle of a sentence.
Oh, okay.
The boy next door is not who or what he appears to be in Darryl. It goes on, the thrilling sci-fi adventure featuring Barrett Oliver, also of The Never-Ending Story,
yes.
Mary Beth Hurt and Michael McKean. And then the next sentence is very long and self-congratulatory, and compares it favourably to Flight of the Navigator, Short Circuit, and Explorers.
There's my mid-teens, all in just that one self-congratulatory sentence. We are watching Darryl next week. We hope that you can join us, but until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. It's short too.
It is. It's an hour and a half,
It has that
and then
going
we're
for it.
done.
Good old 80s kids movies.
Yep.
Hour and a half.
Yep.